gonna start making some YouTube videos about what's going on with the shop and what we're doing. So what I have here is Yamaha 1200 XL. Issue was, I'm just gonna show you really quick. I already have most of it all taken apart, but I'm gonna show you what happened when an oil line falls off and ruins your cylinders, ruins them to the point where you have ultimate devastation. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, and there's most of your heads right there, and there is our new full setup with head. So hang in tight, that'll be the next video coming out. We're gonna get this all done up, and I'll get back with you. We're back at the jet ski. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna unbox the new WSM performance parts. These are the new kit for the block that we're rebuilding from the old pistons that wore out. Not as bad, fairly okay, but obviously this is the cylinder that lost all oil pressure and completely destroyed. So what we got here is a brand new head, a brand new block, brand new parts. So let's go ahead and unbox these right here with you guys. Let's see here, I'm gonna do this one-handed, so bear with me here. It's kind of difficult. So, alright, looking at that, 5mm over. They actually have, obviously not sponsored by WSM by all means, but they have good quality parts. So, let's go ahead and get this all out here. New lock rings, clips. Here's our rings for the pistons. Sleeve, right here, sleeve. Let's see here. See if I can get this piston out. Sorry. Very difficult one-handed. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if I can just put you over here in the corner for a second. All right, here we go. Focus. These are the new pistons going in. The best part is this style, which is the new, you no longer have to worry about these washers that go in the inside here, one on each side of these tubes here that fall down into your crank. So they did away with that and made life a little easier. Also, just for a heads up, an early teaser here, if you can see right here, do you see those two pins here? There's one on the lower ring and one on the upper ring. When you're installing your piston rings, make sure that the open gap is there where you're gonna explode your rings when you go to press them. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and unpackage the rest of this WSM performance part kit, and then I'll get back with you guys on the install. Alright guys, stay tuned. This is the part I was talking about. If you can see it, it's tapered at an angle at the end of these piston rings, okay? So when you grab your piston, there's little locator pins in terms here, right there and right here, that these rings right here, sorry for the bad camera angle, but the rings have to set flush on. So what you do is you orientate the ring just above the pin and slowly work them down. Don't jump all the way down, because you could fracture the ring. And you just easily just work it on down like this, and you just keep spinning it until it's just where it's below, like that ring. See where it's at? And when I go to set this in, gotta make sure that this ring sits flush inside by the pin, like so. If I go to press this piston and it's like this, it's gonna explode the pin and the clips. So make sure you're all the way seated. Alright, I'm gonna get the other ones done. Alright guys, I'm going to attempt to show you how to install the actual piston right here, and I'll do it on this one right here. But it's very difficult for me to do both, hold the camera and actually show the film. So what I'm gonna try is have my phone sit in there and record it like that. So give me a second to get one of these ready. Alright, so step number one is to take your roller bearing here, install that in. Here, let me grab a light, maybe that'll help out a little bit so you guys can see a little better. Alright, that made it a lot better, okay. So right here is that roller bearing, okay. This is basically a needle bearing that goes in between on your arm of your piston, your actual rod here, okay. We're doing the center cylinder right now. So you set your bearing in. You grab your piston, which makes sure that your arrow is pointing towards the exhaust, okay, so the exhaust can escape. And then you actually have your rod tube, basically, which you're going to insert through the arm of the piston as well as through the piston head. So the way I found the easiest is to go ahead and start your rod here, your tube, and a little bit of oil or any kind of grease will help slide that tube in, and then holding it with arrow in proper direction, slide your piston down over like so to the point where you can take your piston tube and press it in through the needle bearing like that, just like that. So now the piston is installed. The only thing we're missing is installing the two retaining clips that go on each side of the piston itself, which we will get there. But right now the goal here is just to install all three pistons, piston rings, tubes, and needle bearings, and then from there we will go ahead and put the actual block on top. So just to give you a better view here of what we got going on, here is your inside where your cam is, the crank. You got each lifter for your piston. People call them arms, piston arms. You can call them lifter arms. I mean, it's not really automotive, so you could get those mixed up. You got your piston, your rings. Your exhaust would go here. You got your carburetor, and then your oil pump, your housing, overall housing. I mean, these are pretty basic. So what we're gonna do here is install. There's those rings right there. So we gotta be so careful. The rings are moving and they're not lined up with. Let's see here. Let's get this pushed over. There we go. Be very careful with your pistons. sorry. I'm trying to adjust here. Alright. So this one is also wrong. There we go. Now it's set in place. And to do this is so difficult because there's multiple rings. Obviously 6 total, because there's 2 per piston. And to line all 3 of those up and slide on the head is very important. It's perfect, or you're gonna have big problems. So let's go ahead and go back to the bench. Really wish I could flip this camera around easy, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. Right here is the other one, the other piston. Already have the rings on it. And what I'm going to show you real quick is you basically take your tube, just be careful, cut off the plastic, remove the plastic on the little push tube here, or you call it a rod or whatever you want. I mean, it's just a steel tube which rests inside the needle bearing, which then sits inside the arm, which then is inside of the piston, so that when the arm is going up and it rotates, it has a pivot point on the rod. Okay, so get a little bit of oil here and put some oil on your actual needle. It's always good to pre-oil these, put a little grease on there, makes everything a little bit life easier. Get it on your tube here, and then we're ready to go install this one. So let me grab you here and we'll move back over there, and you can see the last one get installed, and then I'll get us ready for the next step here, which will be getting the head ready for assembly. Let's see. Where could I set you? Sorry, guys. Oh, looks like you're going to be up close and personal in this one. So we're going to go ahead and take our needle here. We're going to move our pistons around so that we can get the correct piston where we want, which is right here. Right in view, real close. So we're gonna go ahead and insert our bearing, which is right here. The bearing inserted. Alright, I'm gonna be a little out of angle, I'm sorry about that. It's very difficult to do this one in the view of a camera. Go ahead and start our tube right here on the piston. You'll slide it in. Also, I forgot to mention, don't slide your rod all the way in. You only want to slide it to where it's just on the inside of this collar right here, so it's easier for you to install on the arm. Okay. Make sure your arrow's pointed correctly. Drop your piston over top of the arm. See if I can get you lined up right here in camera. Nope, I'm not gonna be able to do it like that. There we go. Just like that, slides right in. It's very hard to do with camera, but let's see here. So what we got here is all 3 pistons, all 3 installed. So we are very close to going onto the head. Alright guys. Alright, I'll get back with you. We got the pistons on. We have one of the gaskets on the lower half of the block. Right here is the head, okay? We have to change out the gaskets. Right here is one of the head gaskets. Right here. And to do that, there's multiple 12mm bolts right here that go all the way around the head, okay? To get the head off, a lot of people struggle with this, is there's a gap right here where they've installed this little area where you stick a screwdriver in, and you pry it apart, okay? Once you pry it apart, you'll open the head up. And I've already removed this gasket, but I'm just showing you for looks, but you'll remove this gasket here, okay? This gasket is no longer good, it's complete junk. Here's our new gasket. But what you're gonna do is take a scratch pad or some kind of cleaning and try to get all this extra gasket residue off of the head, both sides. And then we're gonna run a bead of new gasket sealer, and we're going to install the new gasket and then re-bolt the head to the mid. And then from that stage, we'll move on to installing the actual block into the jet ski. Alright, so we are now at the stage where we're going to go ahead and install the block. We've prepped the exhaust, we got the gasket set up, we got all the surface clean, we have the head with the gasket sealed, we have our head gaskets right here, we have our exhaust gaskets right here, we got all our bolts. Alright. We are getting very close to the point where we are now ready to go ahead and mount the block back onto the crankcase so that we are fully installed. And then the hardest part, which I don't know if I'll be able to film, is getting the pins right there, the lock pins for all of these separate piston rings in place and recording it. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna pause it, but basically what you gotta do is you gotta slowly slide the head down, holding all the rings in the correct location and placing it back onto the block. And then all the pistons will slide right in. From that point, then it's just gaskets, more gaskets, so we're getting there. I'll get back with you.